in a jaw-dropping twist that's rocked both Hollywood and the courtroom. Judge Harrison Trent of the Superior Court of California has just authorized a federal arrest warrant for none other than Ellen DeGeneres. Yes, that Ellen, the beloved daytime talk show queen, long considered a beacon of kindness and light in the entertainment world, is now facing criminal investigation after a previously hidden voice memo recorded by the late Stephen Twitch boss was played aloud during the ongoing trial of Sean Diddy Combs, what was once dismissed as a tragic and private. Suicide may now be at the center of one of the most explosive legal scandals in modern pop culture history. The audio in question had never been made public until now. Encrypted and buried within a backup cloud drive tied to Twitch's personal files. The voice memo was quietly submitted as evidence by prosecutors. Once decrypted and verified, the court allowed it to be played, changing the course of the trial in a matter of minutes. In the recording, Twitch's voice is calm, measured, haunting. He begins with 4 words that shook the courtroom to its core. This isn't random. From there, he proceeds to lay out what sounds less like a farewell and more like a last will of warning. He references unnamed but recognizable figures, secret parties in penthouse suites under shell company names, NDAs that no one read, and sinister circles of power. But the bombshell comes just minutes into the recording. Twitch never says the word blackmail, but the implication is chilling. What started as a trusted working relationship with the queen of daytime television seemingly spiraled into something far more disturbing. The voice memo suggests that Ellen wasn't just present at these secretive gatherings. She was guiding him into them. He continues, "She told me everything was fine, but I think she knew. I really do." That single sentence, the final nail, sent shockwaves through the courtroom. The world mourned Twitch when he died in December 22, a widely beloved dancer and DJ. He rose to fame on So You Think You Can Dance before becoming a staple on the Ellen DeGeneres show. When news broke of his apparent suicide, fans were devastated. Candlelight vigils, heartfelt tributes, emotional celebrity posts followed. A suicide note was reportedly found, but the contents were never made public until now. And that note? Turns out it wasn't the only thing he left behind. In court, the recording painted a portrait of a man caught in something he couldn't escape. He mentioned cryptic phone calls, strange messages from block numbers, and unnamed billionaires with sprawling East Coast properties. He even warned, if anything happens, don't just look at Diddy. Ellen DeGeneres has long been seen as a symbol of joy, inclusion, and positivity. Her Be Kind mantra became the backbone of her global brand. But cracks began to show. In 2020, when dozens of former staffers accused her show of being toxic behind the scenes, alleging racism, intimidation, and mental abuse, she apologized. Sponsors quietly backed away. Ratings dipped, but she survived. Now, that carefully preserved legacy faces obliteration. Sources close to the case report that even before the recording was played, federal investigators were already tracking Elon's connections to several clandestine events hosted by Diddy between 2019 and 2021. Financial records, travelogues, private plane manifests, everything was lining up. And the memo from Twitch was the final push Judge Trent needed. Courtroom insiders described the moment Judge Trent approved the arrest warrant as clinical. No outbursts, no dramatic gavel banging, just a quiet signature and the start of a new chapter in an already historic trial. Since the recording's release, multiple former employees of the Ellen DeGeneres show have come forward anonymously, sharing that they were routinely told not to ask questions about Ellen's personal relationships, particularly those with high-powered entertainment moguls. One source described a workplace where you knew better than to question who she was meeting with after hours. Another claimed that the surveillance didn't end when the camera stopped rolling. These revelations, while long rumored, now seem to confirm what many quietly suspected, that the culture of control extended far beyond the show and possibly into far darker territory. As of now, Ellen DeGeneres has not publicly responded. Her legal team has not issued a statement. But court records confirm the arrest warrant has been signed and sealed. Sources suggest authorities are coordinating with federal agents to locate her for questioning. For Diddy, already neck-deep in conspiracy and trafficking allegations. This development only further complicates his defense. Prosecutors may now argue that his alleged network of manipulation and exploitation extended far beyond the music world and into the very fabric of mainstream television. And the saddest part? It may have cost Twitch his life. 2 of those gatherings matched the locations mentioned in prior witness statements about the so-called after-hours rooms. Exclusive spaces where mobile phones were prohibited. Staff were swapped out every hour, and security was provided by off-the-record firms with no official links. At one of these events, Twitch was reportedly invited by Ellen herself, presented as a familiar, friendly face. It wasn't like the show, he said in the recording. She wasn't. Ellen that night, as word of the warrant spread, public opinion fractured. Some supporters stood by Ellen, referencing her years of charity work and public activism. Others turned to social media, using the hashtag #Justice for Twitch, demanding responsibility not just from Ellen, but from an entire industry, accused of covering for itself. Ellen's legal representatives have denied every claim. While no arrest has occurred yet, sources with direct knowledge of the case confirm that contact with authorities has been established, and looming over all of it is one chilling reality. The man who brought joy to millions may have died trying to speak a truth no one was ready to hear. Until now, that unsettling truth brings us into the next bombshell moment in the trial. Just a day after Judge Harrison Trent authorized the arrest warrant for Ellen DeGeneres, prosecutors came back to court with additional evidence tied directly to the first voice memo. This wasn't just about what Twitch initially revealed. It was about what else he left behind for the first time. The court played a second recording labeled simply Final Draft for E. Forensic specialists confirmed it was captured 3 days before his passing. His voice was different this time, not confessional, but final. I tried to believe. I really did, he said. You said people who talk too much just want to disappear. But that's not true. I know what I saw. I know who was there. If you're hearing this, then it's already too late. The courtroom shifted in energy because it wasn't just what he said, it was what he named. Specific dates, locations, flight numbers. 2 of them matched already known event dates linked to Sean Diddy Combs. One of those placed Ellen at the scene. Investigators tracked Ellen's private jet flying into Los Angeles on December 11, 2021 and April 9, 2022, the same weekends mentioned in the audio. Her public itinerary for both periods listed her as on break or working from a remote location, but hotel employees at the Highland Viceroy confirmed a penthouse suite was reserved during those times, using an alias connected to a shell company. Tied to Ellen, that suite. It was located on the same floor where Diddy's event took place. Further guest logs, previously sealed, showed Stephen Twitch boss registered as part of the entertainment. One investigator later told the press, "We were tracing Diddy Allen's name coming up was unexpected, but the documentation is too clean to dismiss." Then came the turn no one saw coming. Allison Holker, Twitch's widow. Until now, she had been seen publicly as a grieving spouse, managing immense loss. But sealed financial disclosures revealed a new development. A payment of $3.2 million received just weeks after Twitch's death. The payout came from an unnamed entertainment company and was officially labeled a legacy disbursement. Allison's representatives claimed it was a structured payment related to earnings, royalties, and estate administration. However, multiple legal experts voiced concern. Entertainment attorney Rhea Barnes said, "Nobody pays $3 million in residuals. That kind of money sounds like a pre-lawsuit payoff." As a result, the court has now subpoenaed all communications between Allison and her legal team from November 2022 to March 2023 as the revelations began to emerge. Former staffers from the Ellen DeGeneres show started to come forward. 3 former executive producers who spoke under condition of anonymity described recurring patterns, forbidden discussions about Elon's private guests, frequent mentions of exclusive after-parties where crew were instructed not to ask questions, and a workplace culture in which silence was expected. One producer recalled a disturbing moment during the show's final season. Twitch arrived late one morning, said very little, sat down and stared at the floor. Ellen asked, "You good?" And he replied, "Depends who's watching." Court filings show that Twitch left behind 3 audio recordings. The third remains unreleased, its title. They'll say, "I gave up." Judge Trent has stated that the file will be allowed into evidence only once its authenticity and relevance are firmly established. Until then, speculation is mounting. What's known so far is that metadata confirms it was recorded just 12 hours before his death. Sources close to the family have confirmed it was saved on a password-protected drive that was only recently accessed through forensic recovery. The FBI has since classified its full contents, but 2 transcribed lines have already leaked too. The media, "I loved my family. I loved dancing." But they're going to say, "I gave up." And that's the part that hurts the most. Since the arrest warrant was unsealed, Ellen has made no public appearances. Her attorneys issued a single statement calling the charges deeply misguided and completely unfounded. But outside her Montecito estate, there has been no movement, no public denials, no press briefings, and no scheduled appearances. The silence, once a signature part of her brand, is now the loudest presence in the case. The trial is set to resume Monday. Prosecutors are pushing to have the third recording played openly in court. Ellen's legal team is trying to block it, citing privacy and hearsay objections. Meanwhile, the Ellen DeGeneres show is no longer just a canceled daytime program. It has become a case study in how far image management can go before it collapses. Steven, Twitch boss, is gone. But for the first time, his voice is being heard. And Ellen, once the dominant voice in the room, may no longer be holding the mic. The public reaction to Ellen's eventual admission was not one of closure. It was rupture. Her carefully composed confession did little to slow the outcry. Within hours of the video being released, digital platforms were overwhelmed with demands for broader accountability. Headlines intensified. Ellen admits guilt. But will the industry follow? That evening, a crowd gathered outside the Warner Brothers studio lot, not protesting a single person, but grieving the illusion many had held for years. Signs read, "He danced so you could smile. You looked away when he cried." Candles were lit, not for vengeance, but for reckoning. Inside the legal arena, prosecutors swiftly shifted course. They began to frame the case not merely as a celebrity scandal, but as a systemic cultural cover. The investigation broadened. It now extended beyond Ellen, beyond Diddy, and into the network of institutions that enabled years of silence. Subpoenas were issued to talent agencies, former party guests, senior executives, high-profile entertainment attorneys, and even local officials were summoned for private testimony. Some began cooperating. That's when new documents surfaced, hidden in the metadata of Twitch's cloud storage. Previously overlooked by both family and law enforcement was a folder labeled Archived Contracts and Quiet. Inside were scanned NDAs, time-stamped signatures, and a shocking string of emails between assistants and publicists discussing how to handle potential fallout if Twitch flips. One message sent from a burner account to a major PR firm: "Read, if he leaks, pivot to mental health. We've used it before. The courtroom was no longer just hearing a criminal case. It was unraveling the layers of Hollywood's protected ecosystem. And then another major figure returned to the spotlight: Diddy. Though he had remained silent during the most recent developments, his lawyers filed a motion requesting immunity in exchange for cooperation. His team argued that while he hosted the gatherings, others shaped the expectations. The implication was clear. He was no longer taking the fall alone. Taking the fall in a sealed proffer later leaked to the court, Diddy went even further. He named Ellen not just as an attendee, but as an active recruiter. The document claimed she recommended guests from within her circle: artists, assistants, even dancers who were seeking opportunities. One name was underlined: Stephen Boss. By then, it wasn't speculation. A legal case was forming around the possibility that Twitch had been deliberately brought in, reassured, and then left vulnerable after witnessing too much. On social media, public sentiment shifted again. Sympathy turned into rage. A new hashtag began trending worldwide within hours. $, he tried to leave. $. Allison Holker, who had until then remained largely silent amid the media storm, finally spoke publicly. Not from a press studio, but outside the courtroom. Flanked by attorneys and Twitch's family, she read a brief emotional statement. He wasn't broken. He was betrayed. He wasn't depressed. He was disillusioned. He loved life, but not the one he was forced to live in silence. The only mistake he made was trusting people who mistook his kindness for consent. She concluded with a demand of formal inquest into whether Stephen Boss had been coerced, threatened, or drugged in the days before his death. The motion was filed that same day. What followed shattered the last remnants of doubt. Security footage recovered from a hotel suite previously linked to one of the private events showed Twitch entering, visibly distressed. Ellen was beside him. The two spoke briefly in an elevator. The video had no sound, but their body language said plenty. He shook his head. She gestured downward. He turned away. She reached out and touched his arm. He froze. 3 days later, they were seen together for the last time, filming a lighthearted social media clip promoting the show's finale. Now, forensic lip readers were being hired to interpret the elevator footage. For Ellen, who had already admitted to moral failure, the case was tilting toward criminal implication. Her lawyers entered talks seeking reduced sentencing in exchange for full cooperation. Behind closed doors, Ellen named names. She gave up agencies, transport companies, silent investors. And then a bombshell emerged. A private video confession, recorded by Ellen months before the scandal broke. It was never released and never meant to be saved. But it had been preserved on an encrypted drive turned over during legal discovery. It's titled, "If They Ask." In the video, Ellen's voice quivers. "I told him it would be fine. I told him to stop asking questions because I was scared too. I didn't kill him, but I made sure no one helped him either." The video was shown in a closed courtroom session. No cameras were allowed, but its effect rippled through the industry. Major streaming platforms halted several talk shows, pending internal reviews. Talent agencies distanced themselves from legacy stars. Charitable foundations bearing celebrity names issued public apologies for ignoring red flags. What began as a scandal was now a reckoning, and as the industry's defenses fell away, the full voice of the man who had danced his whole career for others was finally heard. He didn't vanish. He didn't falter. He stood up, and when he spoke, the walls cracked. In the days that followed, the entertainment industry entered uncharted territory. This wasn't just a controversy. It was a collapse, not a cancellation, but a confrontation. A long-suppressed truth had become undeniable, threatening decades of curated charisma, airtight contracts, and institutional secrecy. The public wanted more than justice. They demanded transformation. Amid the growing backlash, the California State Attorney's Office launched a formal investigation into the entertainment industry's use of coercive NDAs, particularly those used to silence performers, contractors, and junior staff. At the center of it all, the Ellen DeGeneres Show, its partner production firms, and guest lists tied to events now infamously known as the Midnight Floors. But the personal toll deepened. Allison Holker, already navigating grief and a media firestorm, disclosed that her family had received anonymous threats. Her children were withdrawn from school after paparazzi staked out their home. In a joint statement with her attorney, she pleaded for privacy and issued a warning. She wasn't wrong. Within a week, 2 former assistants who had testified about Diddy's events rescinded their statements. One cited intimidation, the other vanished from all online platforms. Meanwhile, a high-profile Hollywood fixer, long rumored to specialize in erasing digital evidence, was found to have scrubbed online traces of party guests and photos from multiple servers. When questioned by federal agents, she invoked the Fifth Amendment. The truth Twitch had tried to reveal wasn't just inconvenient, it was dangerous. Still, more voices came forward. A handwritten letter arrived at the courthouse, postmarked from Nevada. No return address. It described a party in 2017 with eerily similar details. Dark windows, mandatory phone drop-offs, and Ellen giving instructions to the room. The unnamed writer concluded, "Now, I know I'm not." Handwriting experts verified its authenticity. The letter marked a turning point. Twitch, it seemed, hadn't been the first, and he likely wouldn't have been the last. In response, a new organization was formed, the Artist Integrity Review Board. A coalition of legal professionals, former performers, and trauma experts tasked with building a safe channel for victims to report abuse without fear of retaliation. Within weeks, submissions surged beyond capacity. Ellen, now under court-ordered silence, was formally charged with obstruction of justice and conspiracy to suppress evidence. But the most dramatic moment came during sentencing. She did not bring a lawyer to speak.